Have you ever wondered how a politician can shut down a biased question in just seconds? Today, we're diving into Pierre Poilievre's most jaw-dropping moments where he exposes spin and stands by common sense. In the next few minutes, you'll see exactly how he handles tough, agenda-driven questions and turns them on their head, revealing the truth behind the narratives. Stay tuned, because what you're about to see might just change the way you think about political interviews. Let's get into it. Number 1. In December 2024, we saw one of those moments that made headlines, when Pierre Poilievre took charge of the interview and showed exactly how he deals with agenda-driven questions. The exchange started when a reporter asked a tricky question about why Pierre's party wanted to give over $100 million in regulatory relief to what he called the mainstream media. The reporter's tone was more about pushing an agenda than really understanding the issue.
Why did your party want to grant over $100 million in regulatory relief?
Pierre listened carefully and then began to dismantle the question right away. Instead of answering the question directly, he first called out the reporter's bias.
Dollars to the mainstream media. Our belief is that the mainstream media and all...
Your party's decision.
He had to spin the question to this agenda-driven reporter.
Where are you from, by the way? Which outlet are you in? Which outlet? Which outlet?
When the reporter mentioned Canadian press, Pierre was not surprised. He made it clear that his party did not believe in using taxpayers' money to fund media organizations. With calm determination, he corrected the reporter, saying that it was not a matter of granting funds to the media. Instead, he stressed that his party's position was based on common sense, ensuring that tax dollars were spent wisely and not used to push a political narrative. Pierre wanted to respond to the reporter, but again, she interrupted him.
Impressed. So you're talking about tax dollars for media. Isn't CBC your biggest? Isn't no? I can answer. Yeah, and you want to answer?
Why does your party want to grant $100 million in regulatory relief to the mainstream media?
As the reporter tried to push the question further, suggesting that giving tax dollars to media was a good idea because, in his words, it was helping to save media jobs, Pierre fired back. He stated very simply that Canadian Conservatives do not believe in giving tax dollars to the media. His tone was direct and confident. He did not allow the reporter to interrupt him or steer the conversation away from what he believed was the real issue.
Okay, great. So, of course, you are a tax-funded media outlet and spreading Justin Trudeau's message.
Why did you
and so you're interrupting me again. You're interrupting me again. I am answering the question.
Do you regret granting $100 million in regulatory relief to the...
The reporter persisted by repeating the original question, accusing Pierre of dodging it. But Pierre wasn't interested in playing that game. He pointed out that the question was based on a false premise.
To the mainstream media,
your question is false, so if you can allow me to correct your falsehoods, then we...
In his view, the idea that his party had given tax dollars to the media was simply not true. He explained that his party was all about ensuring that public money was used wisely and not for political purposes. According to him, it was the current government under Justin Trudeau that was actually funding the media, a move he believed was meant to influence public opinion in favor of the government.
False. Canadian Conservatives do not believe in giving tax dollars to media outlets. That's Justin Trudeau. That's Justin Trudeau. That's Justin Trudeau. Okay, if you don't want me to answer the question, I'll move on to someone else. You're a tax-funded mouthpiece to the PMO. That's the reality. So.
Question answered. You committed.
I'm trying to, but you're heckling. Are you going to let me answer the question, or are you just going to heckle on behalf of Justin Trudeau? Which is it?
I would love the answer.
Great. So our party does not support tax dollars for media outlets, because that's when we end up with biased media like you, who come here and articulate the PMO talking points rather than delivering real news. Gave Bell Media and other media tax dollars supposedly to protect media jobs. And then what happened? They all got laid off. So that the supposed justification for giving Bell all this money was that it was going to save media jobs. Well, they all got fired. So I guess that wasn't the real reason for giving tax dollars to the media. The real reason was for him to buy support from the media, which is what it actually did. So we believe that media should be driven by readership, viewership, and listenership, and that's what allows it to represent the Canadian people rather than taking marching.
Another reporter tried to spin a story by creating made-up narratives, and Pierre Poilievre was ready for it. In this part of the interview, the reporter started off by saying something about Pierre taking a populist path, using fancy words like populist, but then stumbled when trying to explain what that meant. It was clear the reporter was trying to confuse the viewers.
On the topic, I mean, in terms of your sort of strategy currently, you're obviously taking the populist.
Pierre asked him to explain what he meant, but he clearly wasn't able to do so. This time, Pierre responded in a different way.
Levels, I would guess. I mean, certainly you tap very strong ideological language quite frequently.
Like what?
Left wing, this and that, right wing. I mean, it's that type of ideological thing.
I never really talk about left or right.
Anyways, a lot of people
don't really believe in that.
Okay.
The journalist then pushed further, even claiming that many Canadians believed Pierre was taking a page out of Donald Trump's playbook. The idea was that Pierre was creating drama in every political matter, much like Trump does. When the reporter said this, Pierre didn't hesitate.
Say that you're simply taking a page out of the Donald Trump book.
Like which people would say that?
Well, I'm sure a great many Canadians, but...
Like who?
I don't know who, but...
Well, you're the one who asked the question, so
yeah.
You must know somebody.
Okay.
He responded by calling out the made-up narrative, showing that he was not going to let these unfounded claims slide. He simply pointed out that if the reporter wanted to compare him to Trump, he should be more specific and give a clear example of what page he was talking about. At this point, the reporter kept on pressing, asking, why should Canadians trust him with their vote? He wanted Pierre to explain why he was different from the others. Pierre answered that question in just 2 simple words.
Trust you with their vote, given, not just the sort of ideological inclination in terms of taking the page out of Donald Trump's book, but
what are you
also
talking about? What page? What page? Can you give me a page? Give me the page. You keep saying
in terms of turning things quite Trudeau and the left wing and all of this. I mean, you make quite a it's quite a play that you make on it. So I'm
not sure. I don't know what your question is.
Then forget that. Why should Canadians trust you with their vote?
Common sense. Okay. Common sense.
He suggested that the current government, led by Justin Trudeau and supported by left-wing policies, was failing Canadians. Pierre went on to criticize Trudeau's government for its economic policies. He reminded everyone how the government printed $600 billion and grew the money supply by 32% in just 3 years. That, he argued, was 8 times faster than the economy was growing. No wonder, he said, that Canada was suffering from the worst inflation in 4 decades. He made it clear that under his leadership, there would be a different approach. According to Pierre, his plan was to cap spending, cut waste, and balance the budget. His goal was to bring down inflation and interest rates so that everyday Canadians could pay their mortgages and afford rent again. It was a promise of a return to common sense, a plan to restore the buying power of every paycheck.
Common sense, common in this country. We don't have any common sense in the current government. The guy prints $600 billion, grows our money supply by 32% in 3 years. That's growing the money 8 times faster than the economy. No wonder we have the worst inflation in 4 decades. I'm going to cap spending, cut waste, so that we can balance the budget and bring down inflation and interest rates. You'll want to be able to pay your mortgage again? You want to be able to afford rent? Then you have to vote for Pierre Poilievre, because I'm the only one with a common sense plan that will bring back the buying power.
Number 3. In another striking moment, Pierre Poilievre once again demonstrated his knack for exposing false narratives. a journalist tried to paint Pierre's comments as secret signals to the far right, claiming that several experts had labeled his words as dog whistling. However, when pressed for details, the reporter could not provide the names or clear sources behind these allegations.
A number of your own comments and actions have been characterized as dog whistling.
Pierre made it clear that such claims were built on a shaky foundation. He pointed out that without solid evidence, these accusations were nothing more than a smear. A classic tactic, he suggested, often seen in biased media reporting.
By a number of
By
different,
who?
but I think it's been
By
characterized
who?
by that way. But
By
are
who?
you trying to
Sorry,
court? Are you trying to court the far right
Sorry,
vote?
I just need to clarify. By who?
By a number of different experts and a number of
who are the
different people
experts?
who work
Who are the
work in
experts?
this. Okay, well, I think
All right.
it's been established that
Right.
this is a concern.
it's
Are you
not-
trying to court the far right vote?
Who are these experts? You say that there are experts who are saying this. Who are they?
Pierre's approach was simple, yet effective. He dismissed the unfounded claims as a distraction from real issues.
I'm sorry. Your question seems to be based on a false premise. You can't even tell me who these experts are.
But that's not all. Pierre wasn't ready to let go of this false claim stunt done by a reporter. Pierre didn't stop there. He also called the claim a smear job from CBC. He compared it to watching a chess master make his next move while everyone else plays checkers. Pierre was ready with a clear message. He explained that his own agenda was all about common sense, getting rid of the carbon tax, bringing home powerful paychecks, and making sure that affordable homes are built for Canadians. He pointed out that these ideas form a mainstream Canadian agenda.
Is that I have a common sense agenda to axe the carbon tax, bring home powerful paychecks, clear the way to build affordable homes, to put people in housing that they can afford. That is a common sense, mainstream Canadian agenda, and I know that Justin Trudeau's supporters are so desperate to distract from that because his political career is falling apart. So we're seeing an attempt here to distract and protect Justin Trudeau from his extremely unpopular carbon taxes and other failing policies, but we won't let him or his or others distract from them.
In his view, Justin Trudeau's supporters were only trying to distract people because his political career was falling apart. Trudeau's policies, like the unpopular carbon tax and other failing measures, were what really needed to be challenged. Number 4. In another memorable moment, Pierre Poilievre tackled yet another controversial issue with his usual blend of clarity and common sense. A reporter from CBC had raised a question about Mélanie Joly's statement on the situation in Gaza. The reporter noted that she had refused to clarify whether what was happening in Gaza amounted to genocide, leaving many to wonder what Canada's real position was. Instead of letting this unclear and evasive answer slide.
Move on to this question, the next question here.
Hi, CBC again. Mélanie Joly said this morning her statement is her statement and wouldn't elaborate further on whether what's happening in Gaza is a genocide. How adequate is that in terms of clarifying Canada's position? English and French as well, please.
Which position?
She did not elaborate further. That's all I can give you, I'm afraid.
Well, I have to figure out which position I'm to comment on, because Justin Trudeau has many different positions on the question that you...
Pierre used the opportunity to point out what he saw as the two-faced nature of the Liberal approach. Pierre explained that the current government has been inconsistent when it comes to addressing the issue. On one hand, some Liberal members of Parliament are sent to mosques to claim that Israel has committed genocide, while on the other hand, a different group is sent to synagogues to insist that any suggestion of genocide is outrageous. This divide, he argued, shows a deliberate attempt to confuse Canadians rather than provide a clear, unified stance. For Pierre, this is not just about politics. It is about the integrity of Canadian values. He believes that such conflicting messages only serve to divide the country further along lines of religion and ethnicity.
Is very cynical. He's divided the country again. So he gets a block of MPs to go out to mosques and say,
that Israel has committed a genocide. And then he gets another group of Liberal MPs to go to synagogues and say that it's totally outrageous to suggest that Israel has committed a genocide. And he sits in the middle of the two and gives incomprehensible statements. You would need a linguist with a PhD and a magnifying glass to figure out the garble that comes out of the foreign minister and the prime minister on this question, because they're deliberately giving answers that no one can comprehend.
Moreover, Pierre was very direct when discussing the situation in Gaza. He argued that the real issue is not about conflicting interpretations of events, but about the dangerous reality on the ground.
The reality is there is a genocide being carried out by Hamas. I don't have to accuse Hamas of committing genocide. They admit it. They proudly brag about it. It's in their charter. They have announced that as soon as the conflict ends, if they're still in power, they will relaunch another October 7th style attack with the purpose of eliminating all Jews from the Middle East, and they frankly would love to eliminate Jews from the rest of the world. This is a genocidal, homicidal, sadistic.
Pierre's message was clear. Canadians deserve policies based on truth and common sense, not on confusing narratives or politically motivated propaganda. What did you think of the 4 times Pierre Poilievre shut down interviewers? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. It really helps us grow.